I'm Forrest Saunders standing in front of the state capitol despite those historic losses on election night. The chair of the Florida Democrats, Nikki Fried, says she's not going anywhere and plans to run for a new 4-year term as head of the party. That is despite calls for her resignation. For more than 30 minutes Thursday, Florida Democrats Chair Nikki Fried laid out what went wrong election night and what's next. That's after Republicans scored major wins up and down the ballot. Well, why don't we start from square one? What happened?
I think that a lot of it was national narrative, national conversation.
Fried says it was a confluence of issues in Florida: weak voter registration, a lack of any real financial investment from the national party, and a message that covered everything from abortion access to affordability, which didn't resonate, especially with independents.
We believed that those independents were going to break heavy for Democrats in this cycle, and they didn't. I mean, they went very heavy to Donald Trump on really two issues. It was the economy, stupid, which is always the number one issue, and for whatever, the reason, which we're going to be spending a lot of time looking at, why people didn't believe that Democrats were going to solve those issues for them. And then the border was still a very significant, even though we all knew that there was a bipartisan border bill that Donald Trump tanked because he wanted to be able to use it in this election cycle. And for good or bad, the vice president was blamed for not handling the situation at the border, and nothing that she was going to say was going to make people feel or believe that she had a plan going forward.
Fried recently penned an op-ed about all this for the Miami Herald. She acknowledges the missed messaging, but says things could have been worse, and that Florida Democrats, quote, held the line. That's as her executive director posted this, quote, not sugarcoating it, we got our asses kicked.
I mean, it's both. We lost. Like that is the end of the day. Like, we lost the election. We do not have, and I think Philip's comments too are in regards to the country. That we spent over $1 billion in this campaign. We lost Congress, we lost the Senate, we lost the White House. You haven't seen true investments back into the state parties, which was what Obama's number one criticism of himself after he left the White House, is that he didn't do enough to build the infrastructure on the ground.
Since November 5th, the blame game has erupted in the party, nationally and here. The former head of the Florida Harris campaign has called on state Dems to, quote, fix their expletive. Others said they'll be leaving the Democrats as long as Fried remains at the helm. What's next for you? Are you sticking around?
I'm sticking around. I'm in this for the long haul, to fix this party and to continue building on it. But we don't have time for finger pointing. Finger pointing has gotten us into a situation that every 2 years we change chairs. And what has that done for us? We are rebuilding every 2 years and never going to have a foundation to build upon. There's work to be done. But if we scratch everything and start over, 26 will be an absolute bloodbath for this party, and then continue the cycle going, and we have to stop that cycle.
The chair confirmed she'll seek a new 4-year term, and she's vowing to do better on voter registration, find ways to encourage donors to invest in Florida, and recapture independent voters with improved messaging.
We got to keep fighting. I mean, that is always like, you get knocked down once, you got to get back up. Like, we have a lot of work to do. This cannot be a Florida Democratic Party goes at this alone. We need everybody to feel invested in the rebuild. And if we start pointing fingers at each other and not looking at, that's not going to be helpful. Everybody can get onto Twitter, everybody can get onto social media and have their 2 cents. The real work is here on the ground every single day.
Now, we also asked Chair Fried if she was eyeing a run for a higher office. What she told us is that she's not going to close the door on an opportunity, but that she's also not naive and, quote, I'm not going to go up to a buzzsaw. That's the latest out here at the state capitol. I'm Forrest Saunders reporting.